So I think with Lily, it was like, it went in 3 stages. Because the first because actually her agent had read the script, and Zach was like, yeah, and he was like, I was like, I have your Wildcat. And I was like, so I started looking at pictures of Lily, and I was like, oh my God, she looks like a cat, she's very like, seductively feline. So that was the first intrigue, was purely like aesthetic. And also she had all like on her Instagram like cuddling her cat pumpkin. So that was like, in a silly way, but actually, of course, like that first impression. And then the cat improv, which I was like, okay, bracing myself, like, I hope she's good, and she was great. But then spoke to Jess and the producer, and was like, after, I was like, oh my God, she's really good, and like casting director and stuff. And then after like 24 hours, I kept on rewatching those videos like on my phone, and then I wrote to her agent Zach. I was like, oh, she is so good, like I love her, like zooming in on them and stuff. And so then I was like, you know what, fuck it, like I'm just gonna, let's go for it. Like if your instinct is there, like let's go for this, and we'll figure out who will be the right wolf. At least I found my Wildcat, at this point.
Where did this idea come from?
So I'd read about species dysphoria, which is this real sort of syndrome that exists. And I thought it was like very, very interesting that people actually believe that they're animals trapped in human bodies. But at the same time, I also knew that I didn't want to necessarily explore, the condition in the real world and sort of like delve into that, but rather sort of take from it what I found sort of the most interesting existential themes, which is, identity and how a person can feel like they're trapped in the wrong skin, the wrong body. So I decided to sort of leap off into a world which is possibly the real world. Like it could be a place next door. Like, I mean, everything is kind of familiar, but also unfamiliar, because it's all set in a clinic which cures this illness. And I think when we enter the film, we have the sense that, it's possibly like quite widespread, quite well known, and they go through increasingly violent therapies to cure this illness. And the film is really about, it is sort of focused on this one character who really, really feels that he's a wolf trapped in a boy's body. And just sort of in adolescence, that need of defining yourself, understanding yourself, like exploring identity.
This project came to me, somewhat classically. My agent, sent me the script and was like, I think that this is really cool and really interesting, and I think that you'd be, be up your alley and everything. And I read it, and like, even before I read it, when I just heard, about the premise, I was like, this sounds, crazily up my alley, and I was really excited to read it. And then once I read it, I thought that the premise that I had been so excited about was best written, most beautiful story that I could have imagined. And the way that each character was developed in the space that they occupied in the story, I thought was just like so unique. I thought that it was so beautiful and well written. And I just felt like I'd never read anything like that, a story like that, or characters like that. And, either read it or even seen it on screen. I just felt like it was really something of its own kind. And I was really, really excited to meet Nathalie. So then we met. And then as soon as I met Nathalie, I was just like, felt immediately, I feel like we like really got along and kind of hit it off. And I was like, this is really somebody that I think is so wonderful and so creative. And I feel like we could, really work well artistically together. And then I went off and I made a tape, and like a tape of like some scenes. And then like I did a little at Nat's request, I did a little bit of a cat improv. And I guess it wasn't too bad, because then I met her and we did another kind of like in-person like work session together, which I think is really, valuable if you get the chance to do that before, to just like, see how you work together and everything. And we just kind of worked and everything. And so I play Wildcat, who is, at first glance, a young girl who believes that she, is a wildcat trapped in a human's body. She suffers from the same syndrome that all of the, patients at the clinic do, except that she has been there for a lot longer and has a different relationship to the place and to the doctors. She's kind of been raised there ever since she was little. And so in that sense, she has a different kind of, connection to her animal projection. It's a little bit more, distant, but at the same time a lot more like engraved in her than all the, she's just lived with it for a really long time. She's grown up, but she hasn't really grown. She hasn't really evolved. She hasn't really been given that chance. She's been in this kind of like stagnant environment and the stagnant place in her life, I think, you know, ever since she was brought to this place. And then when she meets Jacob, I think it's like a huge turning point for the both of them that allows them to start kind of asking themselves a lot of really important questions about themselves and their identity and the ways that they relate to their environment and the people around. They have this kind of just like innate, yeah, exactly, like connection that's really really special.
As the writer of the film, I've always thought of it as a sort of misplaced love on both sides, because she certainly does fall in love with him in many ways, but I think she's so desperately lonely, and she finds this person who enters her life and his kind of mystery, and also possibly even that darkness and the wildness, the freedom that he has, like really attracts her at a point in her life when she unknowingly is desperate to leave, you know, to grow. Within this relationship, they fall in love with what they're missing from their own lives and from themselves. So again, yeah, a sort of the way I've always thought of it is as two parallel lines that like run very closely together, and they sort of share a space, a moment, but don't really intersect in that kind of profound way in which love, you know, can be forever.
You know, as journalists, we are told not to assume anything, but I would assume that in your own life, Lily Rose, that you do not believe that you are a cat, but obviously when you got this script, there was so much that you could relate to, and even just talking with you now, can you speak a bit to those themes and what you really hope it is that the audience takes away when they see this film?
To me, and I think to Nat as well, Wildcat is one of the most kind of human characters in the end, and because she's been living with this animal projection as a form of like self-protection for so long, it almost becomes like more of a performance or something that she can like not turn on and off, but kind of tap into and not tap into. And it's so second nature that she's almost not as troubled by it as the other patients. And I think when she meets Jacob and sees that like wildness in him, it's almost like she wants to be wild for him too, and show him like, I can be a part of your world. I'm like you and you're like me, and we have found each other. And in that sense, like it was almost more important to connect to the human sides of her than the animal sides of her. It doesn't need to be a problem to be different, and it doesn't need to be like, it's not something that needs to be fixed or something. It's not something, and it's not something that has to come from pain or come from, it can just be you know, you're just allowed to be who you are.